And welcome to another commentary done by Diggity on behalf of StarCastTV. Up right in corner, we got Sharp starting as the brown Terran. Bottom left hand corner, we have none other than Shuttle starting as the blue Protoss. This is going to be on Revolver. Can be a very, very fun map. Has kind of an awkward natural expansion. Try that again. Has an awkward natural expansion opening. We've got kind of the two eggs blocking that northern corridor. Two eggs blocking kind of a wide choke out to the right. Small bridge there, and then you can see how massive and wide open it is in the middle. I feel like vultures do very, very well on this map, simply because there's so much opportunity to sneak into that natural expansion and create some havoc. So I would not be shocked if Sharp opts for a more factory-heavy build in the early stages. We'll see what Shuttle is up to. Oftentimes, Shuttle does like playing to his namesake, Shuttle-style builds. And is kind of, I'm not sure if I want to call that meta the Shuttle rather than Arbiter meta cutting edge anymore. I've seen a lot of players move away from it, but I've seen one or two still utilize it here and there. And in particular on maps where there are like large, like Ascension was a fairly strong map to utilize it on. And I'd be interested to see whether we see Shuttle try to utilize that same speed shuttle defense style over Arbiter or over Carrier as well on this map. I don't feel like this is a very good carrier map overall. It looks like we do see a gateway scout shuttle going to the bottom right hand corner first. This is cross spawn, which could serve two problems. One, Dragoons could get stranded in no man's land, surrounded by mines, something along those lines eventually. And so it could be possible where Shuttle just gets backed up and needs to play a lot more defensively off two. And I don't know, it might be a challenge to secure 3 bases if he doesn't open up with a goon heavy build. On the opposite side, if Sharp wanted to go for a factory push, there's wide open area in the middle of the map, and so a lot of opportunity. No attack right there. A lot of opportunity to get surrounded on multiple sides with if Shuttle can produce a sufficient enough attack force to repel. Looks like we do have 3 SCVs in gas initially, so we are going to see a factory opener rather than command center opener. The probe wandering up sees the initial Marine in construction. Sees the initial supply depot. Hasn't wandered up to look at the refinery as of yet, but could create some havoc otherwise. First zealot being produced. Usually this is, I found out actually recently, and this is information to me, is this first zealot helps punish that racks into expansion opener. The factory has been dropped. I believe the probe has seen it. He's going to go ahead and back his way out. Sharp SCV making his way along the corner. I do feel like an artifact of that, though, is because you produce that initial zealot and start applying pressure, you really don't have an opportunity as Protoss to deny this early SCV scout, which changes the meta quite a bit from there. It's kind of the state of things for Terran Protoss, at least in the early game. So, Cybernetics core up. Zealot has made it in. The 2 Marines scrambling back, a third one joining, so it's going to be 3 Marines, and at this level, actually, I was about to say, at this level, that's usually easy, but 1 Marine down already. So Shuttle able to do some damage. The probe coming back in to create some havoc. The factory is now finished, so that'll be the first vulture, but 2 Marines. So that Zealot has already paid for himself, and let's see if he's going to go back in for more action. Another Marine being constructed. An SCV now trying to battle it out as well. That might end up, no, does not end up losing his life, is able to scurry away. Nope, take it back. Zealot is able to turn around and get 3 kills. Some nice disruption here early from Shuttle overall. That Zealot still has a shred of health. The 2 Marines actually gets yet another Marine. 4 kills on that Zealot as a machine shop is dropped. Nice pickup early. Dragoon is out now working on that first SCV, but big plays to start, and it looks like that robotics facility being dropped from Shuttle already just after that Nexus is coming online. So we see 1 gate expand into robotics facility. That SCV stranded back there. The Dragoon actually not pulling up and applying pressure. The Marine's very far forward. A little dangerously forward, honestly. The Vulture out there as well. But now comes the problem for Shuttle is how do you defend this natural expansion? And I think that is why he ended up abandoning that SCV in the main. Just going to allow that scouting information. Probably going to rush to Observatory anyway to try to... So he's got range going. Maybe wants to rush to Observatory just to try to negate that Vulture mine advantage on this map. 2 Marines backing out. That Vulture going to back out to that right-hand corner. Wants to make sure it gets its mine complement down. Not quite upgraded yet. Second factory being placed by Sharp. Mines to be completed. And that SCV, yeah, so finally getting taken out. I feel like that is something that I'm noticing in the... I don't know if that's just an artifact of Revolver, but I feel like it's more an artifact of needing to build that initial Zealot these days in the meta, is it allows that SCV to just stay alive longer. I think an artifact of Revolver, having that natural expansion that's so exposed to Vulture play, it allowed it to just stay alive a little bit longer. We have speed being followed up as an upgrade, and unsurprisingly, several more Vultures being constructed. We do have one tank out on the front, single mine being blockaded at the 9 o'clock. In case that was going to be the next base take, expect this Vulture to cycle around to go ahead and plant a mine there at the 6 o'clock. We do have a second gas being taken fairly quickly before we see a third gateway. 4 shuttle overall, and he's also got this pylon out to the corner, which might suggest we're going to see a push to 2-base, and we have a pylon to the opposite side as well, which does suggest we're maybe seeing 2-base Arbiter play here. Armory being placed here from Sharp. Speed just about finished. Let's see if these Vultures start getting more aggressive after this. And here's the thing, even with the 3 Dragoons, with a sufficient, you can see that Dragoon trying to blockade to the north, even with a sufficient Vulture force, if there's even like a small gap right here, I could see those units pushing through. And look at this, Sharp moving out with kind of an off timing push. Speaking of which, he's got, so haven't seen this one before, 2 siege tanks, 4 Marines, an SCV alongside, and 2 Vultures to the north. Observer's going to wander in, it's going to see an empty base, and that should be a big indicator that there needs to be something. And I take it back, so rather than 2-base Arbiter, looks like Shuttle going ahead and grabbing that 5 o'clock, very bravely so, but he's going to have 4 Dragoons to try to stop a fairly sizable attack force. The Observer completely missed it. Granted, there's just 2 factories here, but seeing no army, a little bit shocked that Shuttle didn't draw back much more rapidly. So now, Sharp pressing up, the Marines getting peeled off, the siege tank's a little bit far back. 5 Dragoons actually, wow, so the 5 Dragoons actually able to hold that. And a great defense there for Shuttle, maybe because the architecture, that initial Dragoon plugging the gap, forcing those siege tanks out of the fight over a long period of time, completely obliterating that attack force. So big win. More Vultures streaming across, going to go ahead and pick off that probe to the south, but also confirm that there's a 3rd base in construction. We have 4 gateways, so there's the 4 gateways up to follow. A shuttle being built otherwise, but Sharp not done with this yet, sending out another foray. Looks like a siege tank to the north, able to pick off at least a Dragoon to the southern position. Mines in a flurry down to the south. The Dragoons now pressing forward to go ahead and wipe that siege tank out. A couple Dragoons losing their lives to Mines to the right. And Shuttle having a little bit of trouble, so he hasn't walked underneath. Okay, finally walking to pick off that siege tank. Let it live for quite a period of time, though. The Vultures continuing to harass that 5 o'clock base. And this was the concern I had earlier, is yeah, once you have Vultures out on the map, it can be extremely difficult to protect your bases. And this was just with 2 factories. Now we see another 5-factory play off what was that +1 weapons that has... see if I can find a Vulture and see if +1... No +1 weapons yet. But I think we're going to see, yeah, +5... Or, can't talk all of a sudden. We're going to see the 5-factory +1 weapons push as far as a follow-up from Sharp. The Observer sees it, however, sees the double machine shop, sees everything else. So now it's up to Shuttle to have the proper response. Already starting to move out, clear a handful of mines. Shuttle does have a nice supply lead. He does have, again... the namesake, like I was talking towards the beginning, where he has that shuttle, which can provide some support. +1 weapons already being upgraded, and we see the double Stargate. This is very brave of Shuttle, seeing that plus... So he sees the 5 factories, he sees the +1 with that Observer, but in spite of that, he's going ahead and dropping the Stargate ahead of this, and looks like he thinks he can get the carriers out before this 5-factory push gets underway. And I honestly feel like 6th factory being dropped, Observer has actually moved out of position to the north. I don't know about this. Usually you see, this is usually what you want to have to catch a Protoss tech switching. Here, Shuttle doing the tech switch after seeing the factories planted. He's going to have to get very aggressive and be very efficient with the Dragoons and the shuttle that he's already got out on the map. We have some Vultures already to the north that have plopped down. Looks like a huge pylon wall to try to protect that 5 o'clock. So going to have to move out and get it done. The Vulture's able to sweep in between additional pylons, trying to blockade. But again, those Vultures are able to slip through the natural expansion. And it's critical that these minerals get mined, and he doesn't have these sort of disruptions as he's trying to press, keep those gateways active, and have sufficient troops to go ahead and repel Sharp's push. off the 5 factories. So not a lot of kills there with that vulture. A little bit of disruption there at the 5 o'clock, but emptying the natural expansion briefly. And the troops starting to fill in. And I take it back. So the 5 factories dropped. Sharp instead going for a 3rd base. So kind of going, both players kind of going halvesies on this. I think I misread the situation overall. So Sharp, rather than going for +1 weapons off this timing, maybe not liking what he sees. So instead, gonna go ahead and just grab his 3rd, shell up, and play from there. I don't know if he missed the comsat on the carriers or what, but maybe felt like he was in a strong enough economic position where he's like, I'm just gonna go ahead and grab a 3rd, or perhaps recognized that Shuttle had some sufficient troops. So right now, a few Dragoons to the front. Observer does get picked off, but sees the SCVs in transition, which lets him know that that 3rd base is in fact established. I don't see a 2nd armory down as of yet. So this is going to be, and I'm honestly surprised. I thought for sure, seeing that 6 factories, this is going to turn into a push from Sharp. But +1 weapons is finished. +2 weapons hasn't started. He's got that 3rd base. Usually you'll see play towards 3-2 from this, but we're not seeing any movement towards 3-2 either. And I'm not sure if he's been able to spot the carrier swap or not. He's got some Goliaths out, but he's not really pushing what helps with that Goliath press, that getting that +2 weapons underway. He does have charm boosters and more Goliaths filtering in. In the meantime, Shuttle's going ahead and grabbing that 4 o'clock base, and the carrier count looks like 2 carriers moving out on the map, 2 more in the backfield, and a 3rd Stargate being dropped upon the support of that 9 o'clock base. So supply count's even, but you don't have that weapons upgrade, that +2 weapons that you typically see. So Shuttle's army going to be a little bit stronger against this. And on top of that, you have these carriers, but these carriers might be exposed to your mid-map. I don't like this map for carriers. I'm just going to be flat honest, because there's just too much open exposed space in my opinion. And you have this exact problem. The Dragoons getting absolutely annihilated. There's no protection for the carriers overhead. And so the Goliaths, although they're lagging this army, getting some free shots on the base carriers overall. And wow, Sharp just shoving his army into Shuttle's forces right here, able to pin them all the way back to the top left. And now that he shoved that attack force to the top left, is going to reposition. I don't even know if he recognizes that that 9 o'clock base is up, but just going to reslot and wipe out potentially the 5 o'clock and that natural expansion. Maybe there's going to be a counterattack, but with the 6 factories down and 2 bases up, Sharp technically can bleed this 3rd, and I think he'll be in a better exchange position, taking out this 5 o'clock and the natural expansion. A happy exchange. Might want to move some reinforcements that direction. Mostly just Goliaths here, and it looks like the Dragoons will be sufficient. It looks like some probes have managed to sneak through the lines. So 5 o'clock base down. Shuttle still basically mining across 3. He is able to halt mining here at the 11 o'clock, but SCV is going to draw back, so now it's still 2 bases versus 3. Gets the command center, which is actually a big win for Shuttle, but he's still down 20 supply. He has a massive army outside his natural expansion. Looks like he's got 4 carriers making their way that direction. This is a little bit more of a defensive position for the carriers, I will say. Overall, do we still have +1? Okay, looks like +2 weapons starting to make its way across. Now, in this slot position, the carriers actually might have a better time feasting on those Goliaths and pecking them away and whittling this army out. He's got the Dragoons continuing to press into that natural expansion. Some siege tanks right there and some mines. Look like they're going to be able to take that out, but what was that massive attack army earlier from Sharp starting to look much, much thinner. The carriers still mostly looking healthy. We've got 4 Dragoons otherwise, and those 4 carriers trying to defend this natural expansion, and a full control group of Goliaths starting to press in. Sharp feeling like he has the advantage with these 3 siege tanks, more vultures making their way across the map to provide some support. And Shuttle in a dangerous situation, potentially going to end up losing this natural expansion, at which point he'll be down to 2 bases. This is an odd situation. He's still got a group of 6 Goliaths outside the natural. He's got a group of Zealots. Does he have Zealot leg speed? I assume so at this stage of things. A couple Goliaths getting mispositioned and drawing out. It looks like a vulture has found that 9 o'clock now. The Dragoon's going to peel back that direction. It's still 3 bases versus 2. Sharp not making any movements to re-grab that 12 o'clock base. Pressing in, getting some free shots. The carrier count has grown to 6. We got +2 weapons already on that interceptor, so an overall upgrade lead for Shuttle. And he might be okay at this situation, despite how dire it looks right here. He does need to clear the minefields between point A and point B, but Sharp has not re-grabbed that 3 o'clock. His main, in a minute or two, is going to be mined out. +2 weapons is now tapping on, but those Dragoons being backed out. SCV going to go ahead and now re-grab that 1 o'clock, but this has been an active third base for quite a period of time. And with Sharp backing off, let's see if Shuttle can go ahead and re-grab some additional bases. He's already staging to go ahead and re-grab that 5 o'clock. Those stranded Dragoons pulling away. Supply counts even once again. Now we have +2 weapons, +1 armor for Sharp. That SCV made its way out here. Looks like it's just going to go ahead and grab the refinery. Interestingly enough, the command center was built up above, so being a little bit cautious. And that caution actually might have handed Shuttle the game, as he's got 7 carriers now, moving mid-map. If he can just protect them and make sure he doesn't get bullied back again by Sharp's units, and has that mix to keep those Goliaths confused exactly like this. Some Zealots also coming from the left, able to get on top of the siege tanks. The Vultures and the Goliaths not there to peel them off. However, the Dragoons getting annihilated underneath. A lot of siege tanks picked off. There's 5 remaining, and it looks like a sizable Goliath force charging forward. All the observers wiped out, and this is, again, why I don't like Revolver for carriers, because once you have the units picked out underneath, the carriers don't have a lot of protective surface to retreat to. It's a long retreat. Sharp actually holding back. He's going to go ahead and grab the 3 o'clock. This is going to put him 2 bases up if he can get them saturated. He's already got 1 base saturated. So now Shuttle just going to rely on carrier superiority to try to win things from here. He's going to have to do so before +3 weapons is finished. +3 weapons already on the way, and before these bases really get off and running, because otherwise he's going to end up facing a sizable 200-200 army, that Dragoon being wiped out to the 5 o'clock. And one problem for Protoss forces at this stage is you're kind of playing the mech game, where you have a large army that is extremely immobile going up against what oftentimes ends up being an aggressive Terran army looking to pick off whatever area you can't defend. Main's also looking somewhat thin for Shuttle overall. That third Stargate ending up silent, but the carrier count continuing to grow. Now the question also becomes did Shuttle just build too many carriers? And is he going to be able to micro them in such a way where there's nothing left that Sharp can do to negate them? Moving very aggressively with kind of a pocket army here of about 10 Dragoons, it looks like. 1 carrier getting just sniped right there, and wow, that's a lot of Goliaths underneath all of this. Looks like some base damage happening. The Interceptor's getting peeled off a little bit here, and this might just be too many Goliaths. It looks like they are picking off Interceptors in the air, and the Dragoons also, yeah, just dying and getting wiped back. So now this is looking very strong in Sharp's favor. He's just got a massive Goliath force pressing into this. He's got +3 weapons, not that far from finishing. He's got 3 bases, which will put him in a very strong economic position. It looks like a 4th base is being grabbed by Shuttle, but a supply lead from Sharp overall. He's also got, it looks like, a little bit of latent defense in mines to the northern location. You can see Shuttle starting to scramble out, maybe try to grab additional surface area for himself to just get some more economy rolling. 2 more carriers waiting in the bank here to rejoin that carrier force to get that number to 8, but we do have, it looks like, I'm going to say at least 2 control groups. I think 2 control groups plus of Goliaths, and +1 weapons just on the verge of finishing, which is going to make them very, very dangerous to these carriers, particularly without the armor plating. Indeed, I mean, they're going to be dangerous towards the Interceptors, everything in between. The Observer finds the 3 o'clock. So we got the 3 o'clock up, we got the 1 o'clock up. Bottom right sees the Observer mine in the way. We've got 3 bases running. A Vulture able to spot that this is just getting up and planted. Nice pylon block to keep it out of there. But Sharp also on the move with the Goliaths. +1 armor plating in between. That is going to make them a little bit fragile overall. +1 armor, +1 shield. I actually like the +1 shield because that is kind of cute, I think, with the Interceptors overall. I'm wondering actually if that ends up being more efficient. Love to hear from a skilled Protoss player in chat. But we got a massive carrier fleet now moving out. Been comps added. We'll see how this plays out. Siege tanks moving up, sieging short. You can see the Interceptors exploding in the air here and there. Shuttle at near max supply, Sharp at near max supply. and neither player wanting to pull the trigger right here. Which makes sense, because first of all, Shuttle doesn't want to end up losing his army and therefore losing his carriers underneath and potentially getting pushed back and losing a base. At the same time, I think Sharp recognizes he's got an economic edge and doesn't want to give that up either. So both just trying to get good trades with the army movement. Carriers engaging, trying to get on top of those siege tanks. Tanks sieging up, the Dragoon lines on the edge. Zealots pressing forward into the Goliaths to try to disrupt that fire. It looks like they're being very successful in doing so, and the Goliaths getting picked off in mass. Not a lot left. And it looks like Shuttle might have done it with a beautiful engagement right there, disrupting the Goliaths, staying on the edge, and so wins the overall fight and therefore takes the match. Great game by Shuttle. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Well played. Thank you for listening.